Hello, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. This is your boy Carl E. Long coming to you from the 214 in Dallas, Texas. And this is episode 37. 37, yes, episode 37. And I've been having a ball. But the most important part of doing this podcast is the importance of the information that I am putting out there. I got a few stats from one of my podcast homes, and it's starting to pick up some steam. And I really appreciate those of you that are listening or finding me, because I tell you, I remember when podcasts first came out, they were not even really, nobody even cared about them that much. And then all of a sudden, they blew up. So everybody and their mama has a podcast, but there's something out there for everybody. And I hope one of those everybody's is me. Yes, your boy Carl E. Long. Let's talk. We talk about politics, guys. We're going to talk about pop culture. We talk about movies and what's going on in the world. But whatever we talk about, we want to make a difference. That's the whole point of my podcast. So I want to get right into what America is talking about. What is America talking about this week? So this episode today is dedicated to my boy Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Our episode is Joe Biden's legacy. Does he deserve this? And y'all all know what I'm talking about. You all know what I'm talking about. For those of you that are listening and not watching, the graphic that I put up shows a photo of Joe, the book that's been written by Jake Tapper, and I can't think of the other guy's name, Alex Thompson from Axios, on all the supposed cover-up of Joe Biden. Now, all of this comes in the midst of him announcing that he has been diagnosed with a very, very aggressive form of prostate cancer. Yes, my heart dropped when I heard that, because man, Joe just doesn't deserve all the stuff that's been happening to him in his life. He's had some traumatic events in his life. And for this book to come out, is just a slap in the face. And the photo that I used on this graphic, for those of you that are watching, is a picture of Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. And this is a picture that they're using for their official publicity tour. They've hired a highfalutin publicist to publicize the tour of this book, so they can call it and they can mask it as anything that they want to mask it as, but this is book selling, guys. This is book selling at the expense of Joe Biden, and that's what I believe. Yes, we know there were a lot of things that went on. Democrats didn't do too well, and the whole deal after the debate, after the tragic debate performance of Joe Biden, everybody started scrambling. And we saw it. I saw it. I saw how Joe looked old to me. He looked older. He looked more feeble. He looked tired. And from everything that I read, he really wasn't up to doing that debate that night. And I just kind of expected something was going to be horrible that night. I had a bad feeling. But you know what? That's what comes with age. That's what comes with age. I have lived through the life of dementia and losing your mental acuity, because I lived it through my mom. I watched her go from one point. I used to tell my brothers and sisters, I said, Mother, something's going on, because even when she was in her right mind, she would ask me every time I'd come to visit, would you like some coffee, Carl? She would ask me that. And I know by the time I end up leaving the visit, probably there about a couple of hours, 3 hours, she may have asked me that about 30, 40 times. But she wasn't there yet. She wasn't quite in the cognitive state that dementia and Alzheimer's does. So everybody else said, oh, she just does that. I was like, yeah, but it's so many times. And nobody listened to me. Nobody really listened to me about it. But I knew something was coming. And Joe he may be showing a little bit of senility, but I don't see signs of dementia or him not knowing what he's doing. I just didn't see that. and all the stuff that he did, guys, how could you really think that this man isn't cognitive? You think that they think that other people were doing all the work. Jill Biden was covering it up. I mean, she stood on The View and said she is not doing that. His grandkids stood there and said they're not doing that. Joe is in great condition. All these people stood before them. They knew that he was getting slow and a little bit more feeble. He was falling down, but the mind, nobody really thought that it was that bad. And so this book is supposedly gotten eyewitness accounts, and there's one close relative who is unidentified that's supplying all of the fuel, if you will, for this book. I would say the meat of this book. I haven't read it yet. I'm mad that I even put the book up here because I'm really upset with Jake Tapper for doing this. I really am. You know, I respect him as a journalist. I really do. And there's some things I disagree with him. A lot of things I have. But he loves to hawk books. I mean, he hawks his book all the time. All the books that he's done, he's hawked them really much on the show. And he's even had a segment when his daughter wrote a book that he managed to get her an interview. So Jake Tapper likes the spotlight. He obviously likes the fame of being a writer. It's probably one of his passions. And he probably wants to make some money. Now, do I think some of the stuff in the book is factual? Of course. I'm sure he talked to someone and they got fused, but that doesn't make it right, Jake Tapper. It doesn't make it right. Joe Biden does not deserve this. He just does not deserve this. For as much that he's given to this country, this cannot be his legacy that you are leaving with this book. And I am very, very disappointed in Jake Tapper. My best friend, who is a flight attendant, used to tell me that he used to fly charter flights for a lot of the reporters when they would travel abroad. And he said that Jake was a very nice guy and he liked him a lot. I said, well, to me, I remember him from ABC, and I remember how he treated Barack Obama. He was really tough on Barack. But he's suspect sometimes, and his journalism is suspect. He kind of comes in and out, but most of the time he's just doing a job. He doesn't come across as someone who's passionately trying to get to the truth to me. He's more of a wannabe star. He's got a lot of those tendencies. So that's where I am on Jake Tapper. But I don't want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to the parade of people who I have found out here on TikTok and other platforms who are rallying behind Joe Biden. So let's just talk about this. Joe Biden's legacy. Does he deserve this, what he's giving, what they are giving? Does he deserve this? The answer to that question from me is no, he does not. He does not deserve this. So I want y'all to listen to some of these TikTokers and people that I found. Some of them have some great profound messages, but let's listen to this one. What more do Democrats want from Biden? This brother is really laying it out there. Let's listen and then we'll discuss.
I have one question about this book. What purpose does it serve? I mean, when you really sit back and you think about all of this, the Democrats got everything they wanted from Joe. He beat Donald Trump in 2020. He saved this nation from COVID-19. He passed an infrastructure bill, the CHIPS Act. He rebuilt our alliances with our European partners and global partners. Saved this economy from complete collapse. Then stepped aside when the Democrat establishment asked him to step aside. Relinquished power, the presidency of the United States of America. The Democrats got everything they wanted from Joe. And that's still not enough. And then to top it all off, the guy gets diagnosed with prostate cancer. And we're releasing books while Donald Trump is doing things that are unconstitutional, dismantling our federal government, rolling back the alliance building that Joe Biden built. Every single thing that Joe Biden spent, not just the last 4 years, but his entire 50-year career building towards in a matter of a couple of months. The Democrats have gotten everything they wanted from this man, and it's still not enough. And then they wonder why they end up in a far worse position than what they started off with. This book serves no purpose. Yes, Joe Biden was an old man. And someday, if we're all blessed enough to live to that age, we'll be doing the exact same thing. Father Time catches up to us all. But does that mean we deserve to have books slandering us? Absolutely not. And neither does Joe Biden.
All right, that was my boy, the Alphonse Angle from TikTok. And he hit the nail right on the head. What more do they want from Joe Biden? I mean, think about everything that he did. This man saved us from the first term of Donald Trump. He beat him. Donald Trump has only beat women. Y'all understand that? And how ironic is that? How ironic is that phrase? What more? And Democrats, I've been getting upset with y'all just like everybody else has, because there's some of you that are on the inside there who, you're a suspect. I mean, there's some things that just need to not be said. Like I heard that Beto O'Rourke was on some podcast talking about Joe Biden was the problem. He was not the problem. And I'll say it like I tell everybody else. I don't care if Joe was half walking or half blind or whatever. I would still vote for him over Trump. Yes, I would. Yes, I would. So let's continue this cavalcade of Joe Biden support. Because this book, Jake Tapper, not good. Not good at all. Let's listen to this one. This is good. Biden, the black president. Here we go.
Let's cut through the noise and tell the truth. Joe Biden was the most pro-black president since LBJ. And he did all of it in just one term. Here's the record. He had record low black unemployment. He achieved record low black child poverty, record high HBCU funding, record high black student loan forgiveness, record high SBA loans to black businesses. And he had 7 black cabinet members, the most in U.S. history. That cabinet included the first black and female vice president, first black secretary of defense, first black EPA administrator, first black head of OMB, a very important office, first black chair of the Council of Economic Advisors. He also appointed the most black federal judges, 63 in all, including the first black woman on the United States Supreme Court. Again, Biden did all of this in one term. But now Trump is back and he's trying to erase all of it. If you don't know the facts, you'll fall for the lies and disinformation of the pro-black imposters. Remember, all your skin folks aren't your kin folks. Stay woke.
No, that was really, really good. When he put that all in perspective, he has, even more than Barack. Now, I understand why Barack didn't do things. Barack had to walk very carefully. To be the first black president, he had to rule a whole lot of white people. And he had to walk a thin line. This is what I'm telling you guys, all my white brothers and sisters, if you're listening. This is what we have to do. We have to look and act more demure and more like you in order to get anything done, because that's acceptable to you. You have never allowed us to be ourselves. And that's what Barack had to do. Now, the second term, he loosened up a little bit more. But when he knew that going in, he couldn't go in being supportive of gay marriage. He couldn't go in with that. He would have never got elected. His whole career was crafted. But Joe Biden has done a lot. And I didn't realize the numbers. I know he did all those judges. And I forgot that Ketanji Brown came out of that slate of judges that he appointed. The black cabinet members and all the numbers. He did a lot for us. And that's why we as black Americans will stand behind anybody that stood by us, and Joe Biden is that person. And I'm not going to ever ditch him. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. I like him. I've always liked Joe Biden. Even when he used to have that little gaff mouth and would say straighten things out of, and Barack would just kind of cringe. That was just Joe. We thought he was a cool guy. He's a cool guy. And he's been around for a long time. And he has grown and he's learned. And I think he's a very smart guy. And he does not deserve this. He does not. Okay, we're going to continue with our Joe parade. Here we go.
Should Biden have ran one term? Who knows? We elected him in 2020 when we needed healing to save us from Donald Trump. He went from saving us from COVID to creating a booming economy by 2024. All the stats, record unemployment, jobs were up, things were happening. Trump started getting momentum. There is an argument to be made that he thought he could do it again. Donald Trump has ever won against women. Biden could do it again. He had a shitty debate performance. We all saw it. Months prior, he killed it at the State of the Union. And then 2 days after the debate performance, he was killing it with foreign policy at a summit. So saying that he was on a cognitive decline is ridiculous. Old, yes. He still surrounded himself with the most diverse, capable cabinet known to man. But even after that, he still dropped out. Y'all wanted a primary because deep down, y'all still didn't want that black lady to be president. And once the Democratic Party comes to terms with the fact that even with all of her qualifications, you still don't feel comfortable with a black woman in charge, then we can actually move on to heal the party. Because let's keep it a buck. Y'all wanted an open primary to elect someone white and a man because you thought that's the only way Donald Trump could win. Y'all did not like the fact that Biden, on his way out, said, and I want my VP to replace me. Acting like she did not raise the most amount of money in the history of elections within 24 hours. Qualifications didn't matter. The reason the Unfuck America tour went so badly is because progressive leftist people that identify as extremely left are okay with racism as long as the greater good is accomplished. And that is why most movements, when they don't center black people in charge helping out, they tend to fail. And acting like racism is only on the Republican side is where people get themselves fucked up. Because even after Biden dropped out, Harris became the nominee, they had their debate. She obviously killed it. All of the policies, all of us talk about Project 2025, all of that, y'all still had it in your heart that you couldn't vote for her. That's a you thing. Because it's not about policy. Say what you want about Biden and Harris. We could sleep. Could quite literally complain about things that were going on in the government because we knew we weren't going to get locked up for it. We could have the conversations about Gaza and Palestine because we knew we weren't going to get deported for it. So all of the people saying we could have had a better candidate if we had more time, yada, yada, yada. You can't convince people that we're never going to vote for a black lady to vote for her, regardless of a year, 3 months, whatever. There is internalized racism and sexism in this party. And until we address it, it's never going to go away. Hillary Clinton, but her emails. Hillary Clinton told us that Donald Trump would be a terrible president. Half the country didn't believe her. And then we got COVID, and then we got Russia, and then we got Charlottesville, and then we got the Muslim ban, and we got all these things that would have never happened if Democrats could get out of their own way to just trust women one time. Just one time. And then 8 years later, we had the opportunity to do it again. And we still couldn't pull the trigger. And yes, we have a few pockets of hope. Obama, 8 years. Yeah, he's still a man. He's still a man and attractive. So black and white women can get behind that. So until y'all are ready to have that conversation, Biden being blamed for our current state could be a small part of the problem, but the larger problem is that Democrats in and out of politics right now are still trying to appeal to white men as if they're ever going to get them. And that is where you guys will always lose. And that's it, and that's all. Instead of going on and rewriting history and how we could have won, because y'all refuse to look at your internalized sexism and racism, how are we shaping the 2026 midterms? Because it's looking like it's going to be hard to begin with, especially with the possible voter fraud that may go on if Starlink gets a hold of the voting booths. What are we doing about that? Let's focus on 2025 and not rehashing 6 months ago. And on that note, you guys have a good one.
She speaks, made a lot of great points. So the one thing that I wanted to make a point about is that how we just can't vote for a woman. That to me is something. And then I think they focus, and this is the one criticism that I had. I said it in one of my other episodes about the way the campaign was run by Kamala Harris and her team, was they were relying on women, and specifically a large demographic of white women. But patterns and history has told us that white women won't do the right things. We should have kicked them to the curb and went after another demographic group or another issue. We shouldn't have stayed there trying to get them to hone in on the female rights, because they didn't do anything. They overwhelmingly voted for Trump. Still, white women can't swim. So to me, they're saying white men. White men are never in the picture to me, because they're going to be where they're going to be. You know, the majority of them is going to go that way. That's just the way it is. Always has been. Always has been. I mean, we get a lot of white men that vote Democratic, but the majority of them vote Republican. Just the way it is. And this kind of gets me upset about how they're treating Biden right now. And then how we're having this rehash of what the Democrats did wrong. Like we're just in this horrible state and we're just not a good party. We're not Democrats. Don't beat yourself up like that. We had to go against a machine that has been working for 4 years to overthrow this government. And we weren't prepared. Bottom line, we weren't prepared because we thought we would never let him back in there again. And it happened. We let our guards down. And it happened. And then you wouldn't do the right thing, America, and vote Kamala Harris in. She should be the president right now. Oh my God, how good it would be right now. She should be the president right now. So that's that on that. So Biden is not the problem. That was the name of that one. So let's look at this guy, the next one here. These are good. These are really good. And I want you guys to hear, not just me talking. I want you to hear other people. I want you to hear what America is saying. This is what America is saying. This is how my algorithm goes. Whatever I'm talking about, it's amazing how social media stays with you. So this is all in my feed. So I'm going, God, all these people are feeling that way. That's a good thing. So I'm glad to know that this is in my wheelhouse. So here we go.
It is insane that this needs to be said, but clearly it needs to be said. Biden withdrew from the presidential race. You cannot be covering something up and then withdraw. You're covering something up if you stay in the race and don't tell people. But if you tell people, I think my time is done as president, my age is a factor, you cannot be said to be covering up your age. It is completely insane. CNN, Jake Tapper, that's what they're saying. On top of which, it is so ludicrous to suggest that because Joe Biden might have needed a wheelchair, that was some big thing. FDR was in a wheelchair. He was one of our great presidents. The president of the United States is not Ethan Hunt. He's not having to do great physical acts. To be in a wheelchair is fine. What's important is his cognitive ability. And there is one candidate from the last race who is now president who fails that acuity test every single day. But CNN, the LA Times, now CBS News, whose president just stepped down under pressure from the company to stay in line, are all suggesting this big deal about Biden, the person who not only isn't president, but didn't even lose the election, simply was not part of the election because of his age. They are now saying, oh, there was some big secret, all to distract from the fact that today Donald Trump will appease Vladimir Putin, reduce sanctions on Russia for nothing in return, that Donald Trump is trying to pass a bill that will increase the debt limit by $4 trillion while cutting air traffic controllers, Medicaid, weather services. While we lose everything the government gives to us, our debt is going to increase, all to pay for billionaires' tax cuts. The billionaires who own CNN, CBS, the LA Times, etc. We are living in a very dangerous time with legacy media. Often in the past, media has been owned by the uber wealthy, and they have used their media outlets to affect narrative, but usually on a single issue, to rinse a reputation, to steer one little agenda. We now have a wholesale commitment from legacy media to bow to Trump and his authoritarian regime. It is a clear and present danger.
Legacy media. You know how I used to be really hard on CNN, but then I started coming back into their graces. But when I saw how all of Jake Tapper and his colleagues at CNN all rallying around him, my colleague, when some of them, some of you really don't feel that this was right what Jake did. And I could tell by your body language, but here y'all are on the same bandwagon, trying to stand with your buddy. This is not right. The book is written now, so the damage is done. The damage is done, Jake Tapper. The damage is done. Shame on you. Shame on you. So here is another thought on that. It's like, think about this. If someone is hiding their cognitive abilities and not knowing that they're deteriorating or whatever, would they want to still? Joe Biden was so adamant he wanted to beat Trump. That doesn't sound like somebody who's like just about ready to lose it. That doesn't sound like anybody not know what they're doing. It sounds like someone who wanted to run badly. He didn't quit because of his abilities. He quit because Trump and his entire regime had painted him to be such an old man that his numbers were failing. His numbers were failing in all of the polling, and he wasn't going to win. That should have been the message. Because that's what happened. They painted Joe to be this old oligarchy, old man who didn't know what he was doing, and it wasn't true. And it wasn't true. So now the whole world is saying that everybody was hiding about Joe. We all saw he was getting older. Nothing was being hidden. We saw he was getting older. He doesn't have dementia, guys. He did some great work. More than most presidents have done in 8 years. Joe has done that. And I wish somebody would get off their high horse and understand this book is not fair. You've written it already. So we're going to let you go ahead and have it. We're going to let you go ahead and have the book because you've written it. Get your little change or whatever. But this should not be the focus. So I want everybody to change the narrative. Legacy media. Give Jake his 1 minute of fame and let's move on. Let's move on. I certainly am after I finish this podcast on letting Jake know this is not okay. So here's another person. Listen to this one.
Hey, Jake Tapper, how does it feel knowing that Joe Biden, the man you have been relentlessly attacking, disparaging, and defaming for the entirety of 2025 in order to sell advanced copies of your book, was just diagnosed with cancer? That's right. Joe Biden's family just unfortunately confirmed that the former president has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. And in light of this tragic news, I just wanted to say, number one, my thoughts and prayers are with you, Joe Biden, and your family. You can overcome this and you can defeat this. And number two, shame on Jake Tapper, CNN, the mainstream media, the political pundits, the DC consultants, and the Democratic officials who have spent the majority of Donald Trump's presidency, the one in which Donald Trump has violated Supreme Court orders, violated federal laws, deported people without due process, accepted luxury jumbo jets from foreign monarchies as bribes, not covering that, but instead piling on Joe Biden for his age, for his cognitive health, even though all Joe Biden did when he was in office was serve the American people, pass bills, and help try to resuscitate the country after Donald Trump nearly destroyed it. I mean, Joe Biden, these people did not deserve you. Get well soon, my brother.
Yes, get well soon. Get well soon. He's a strong guy, though. He's a very strong guy. So, yeah. So, Jake, this is what I'm saying about Jake Tapper. And let me tell you, there was one instance, and I used to watch his show every day. Jake was on the show, and then he had a political pundit. She used to be in the Obama cabinet. I can't remember her name. But they were talking about another issue. And so this came up about this book coming out and how the Democrats were hiding. And Jake kind of steered the conversation. He kept marinating that conversation to stay on that. And then she turned around and she goes, Jake Tapper, you're my friend, you're my colleague, but we're spending so much time on this, is basically what she's saying. And when here we have the president who has just almost defied court orders and all this stuff like that, I just think that there are better things to be talked about. And so Jake got kind of fumbled about it, and he goes, but do you really think that, he quit talking to her and went straight to the other colleague who was ready to engage with him. So it's been quite transparent. No, it hasn't been transparent. It's been quite obvious, Jake Tapper, that you've been hawking this book for a long time. Even when you're talking to people, whenever they got on the subject about Biden's cognitive issues, you would stay on that conversation and engage. And I wish and I'm going to take some time, and I'm going to see if I can make some clips and just show you just how many times I noticed that. And it was subconsciously noticed that I noticed it, but now that I see what's happening now, I should have put two and two together and understood this is what he's doing for the buildup. But he's always been a book hawker. He's always hawking his books on CNN. So, yeah, Jake is more of a star type than he is a hardcore journalist. You notice he never goes into the field, anything like that. He likes to stay in the office and get the glory that he's like the main anchor. I think you share it with Dana Bash, though, but still, that's who Jake Tapper is. All right, let's keep on with this cavalcade of greatness on my president, Joe Biden. Here we go.
You see, this is why people don't want to listen to the legacy media anymore. Y'all focus on a book that Jake Tapper wrote about Joe Biden, talking about Joe Biden being old. Let me tell you something. Joe Biden could be 100 years old right now, and I'd rather have him as president of the United States. I would vote for him if he was 100 years old than compared to what's going on right now. That's right. I would vote for Joe Biden right now if he was 100 years old compared to what's going on right now. Y'all worrying about a book with all of the stuff that is going on right now. And people's rights and liberties are being taken away as we know it. And y'all sitting there worrying about a book that Jake Tapper wrote so that he can make a little bit extra money on the side. That's what it's all about, money. I would rather have Joe Biden right now in office than to be dealing with what we're dealing with right now. Unbelievable.
I like that, brother. Joe Biden. Yes. Telling the truth. He's telling the truth. All this attention on the book. And you know what? We thought that Jake and his team would pull back after the diagnosis of Joe. And then now, of course, there's reporting that they think that was all orchestrated just because of they knew the book was coming out. Joe is not the president. He has nothing to lose. This is his life, his health journey. He doesn't have to tell us flip right now. But him being who he is, he's always told the American people about his son, how Hunter was fighting with drugs. He's always been very transparent about his life. And I don't have any reason to believe, unless he doesn't know it himself, that he's losing his cognitive abilities. And yes, we notice there's a little slip, but that's just age. The man, I trusted my elders, and I still trust them. Man, Joe does not deserve this. Okay, here's my girl Simone Sanders on the whole Joe Biden thing. She gets kind of upset, and I don't blame her.
Did the book say that Joe Biden has dementia? No, not to my knowledge. Did the book say that a doctor has diagnosed the former president with Parkinson's? No, I think the book just says Joe Biden was old.
It did, but it also said that his aides limited his, how much time he would work during the day, and that it brought up, some concerns potentially for national security that he wouldn't have been available at 2 a.m.
I think it's crazy because Donald Trump is the president and he left his Middle Eastern trip and he's tweeting or posting on his social media site about Taylor Swift. It is laughable, frankly, to me, the idea that this is a concern. It's not a concern for Democratic voters, I can tell you, because I've talked to them. I've talked to DNC members and Democratic voters for the last couple of days, actually. I do think, though, if this book tells us anything, it is this. Was the president in cognitive decline? I vehemently don't believe that as someone who saw the president a week before inauguration and someone that spoke to him recently. But was Joe Biden in denial about the political realities of the situation? I think so. And we have to ask ourselves, if that's the case, why? Well, I have to look to the people that were advising the president. What were they telling him? What weren't they telling him? But if we explore that, I think then some people who have yet to show up and take responsibility, then there are questions for them. It's easier, though, to just say, oh, well, the president was old.
Well, I'll ask you what I asked the congressman earlier in the broadcast. What should be the main message for Democrats heading into 2026, 2028? Is it economy? Is it Trump's cuts? What would you advise any potential candidates?
I think I would advise candidates to, particularly because midterm elections is about your district, right? This is not a national election, as though I think some Democrats would like to make it. I think that you need to know the issues of your district. And if you talk to voters in the key districts across the country, it is affordability, that is housing, that is the economy. And you can tie in the chaos that the president has created with his tariffs to that issue and not just talk about what Donald Trump is doing, but talk about what you
will do. That's an important message, and that is what another fallacy or problem that we had in the Democratic Party. Don't talk about Donald Trump because nobody cares. Nobody cares what he does. If you can convince people of other things, leave Donald Trump alone. We need to not give him press for anything. This is what the media could do. They could do something really good. It's like, don't even give any press to Donald Trump a whole day and let him just go crazy. Talk about everybody else except him. He doesn't need any more press. He uses the media to get press, and he knows it. And you guys fall for the trap every single time. That's just truth. Every single time. Oh, boy. All right, so I am still in the analyzation phase of this election. And I'm still trying to understand why people voted so tribally or so different. This was more than right. This was more than right and left, this election. It was more about going into your tribal races and things of that nature. It was kind of a race-related election. It just was. And then outside of what I consider cheating, because I still think there's some cheating going on, but we won't go into that. So here's one that people are starting to talk, especially some of my white voters. And listen to this exchange. I'm not sure what this guy is from. I think he's from, I'm not sure where they're from. I think they were having a little town hall of sorts. And listen to what he's saying. And that's why I want this to come from your own people, not from me. You hear it for yourself. This is a Caucasian man speaking to a room of Caucasians on this issue. Listen up.
I think when people told you that they were voting for him because of the economy, they were lying. I think people voted for him because this country, too many people in this country, couldn't even think about voting for a black female. But they don't want to say. Yep. They're not going to say. I'm not voting for her because she's a woman or she's black. God forbid she's both. Oh, and by the way, she's married to a Jewish guy. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, I'm voting for him because of the economy. They're liars.
Hold on. Completely agree with a lot of what you say. But when we say they're liars, we don't mean all of them. Put your best spin on. Why would
he's a good businessman. They think he was going to make us money.
A good businessman, do good for the economy, make money. Okay, smart guy. Why did good people vote for Trump?
So there was a little focus group. There was all white in the room, and that was a white guy that said that. And all of his white friends, whomever was in that little focus group, they were all nodding their heads, going, yeah, yeah. They know. So this is the thing. When we are among our tribal groups, we tend to speak out to each other, and we know that's the reason. There was a whole lot of men who would never vote for a woman. There was a whole lot of Anglo men and women who didn't want to have a black woman. It's just true, because they didn't vote for her. They overwhelmingly voted for Trump. So that's not a false statement. That's truth. The demographics have been broken down. We know how you voted. So that's truth. Didn't want her. And you can say it was because she didn't do this. She wasn't talking about the economy. What the hell you think she was talking about everywhere she went? She was talking about the things that people wanted to hear about, what we needed in this country. So people say that just irks me. I said, she did have policy. She talked about the economy. She had a plan. Even Forbes magazine said her plan would help strengthen the economy. So why people keep saying that about Kamala? That just burns me. You know, this is how misinformation gets lost in translation. Because there's such lies out there, and then people just help fester these lies, and then after all that, they become truth. Because nobody's challenging them. Jake Tapper and the staff of CNN. Well, okay, so here's something that we just found out just recently. The Supreme Court, let me read this to you here. All right, Supreme Court has allowed Trump to cancel protective status for Venezuelans. The Supreme Court has on Monday allowed Donald Trump temporary protections that allowed 350,000 Venezuelans to remain in the United States for humanitarian reasons. So he can go on, still deport these people, is what's happening here. The Biden administration created the protected status for the Venezuelans in 2021 and 2023, fighting their economic and political turmoil under the regime of President Nicolas Maduro made it too risky to deport immigrants back to their country. Officials approved a third extension of the TPS in waning days of Joe Biden's presidency. But the Trump administration said the program was not in the national interest, and a lower court judge had it barred. Homeland Security Secretary can designate immigrant groups protective status if natural disasters. So basically, they just undoing everything that Joe did. He was trying to protect these little Venezuelan people that came here. And he went to the Supreme Court, and they have allowed him to do it. So they basically lifted what Joe allowed them to do. He was just trying to save people. Venezuela was going through some craziness. Guys, people come to this country. They don't come here to just kind of take advantage of us. They come here because America's great. So without the Biden extension, these people would not be able to be here. So they basically just rolled that back because it was into law, and Supreme Court allowed them to do that. So that's back. Yippers. So yeah, Trump is just undoing everything, and you wonder why Latinos voted for Trump. I don't get it. I still don't get it. All right, so over here on CNN, my boy Victor, he's having an exchange about the South African immigrants. Y'all know about the South African immigrants that Donald Trump brought over here because they were supposedly in genocide conditions, when it really was all about, in South Africa, it's like what? 80% of the wealth is owned by white people who make up probably about 10% or 20%. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's largely smaller. So the law is allowing them to get some of their land back. And so some of these farmers are refusing to give the land back. And there's been some little skirmishes breaking out, but nothing has been of a genocide nature. So these people are fleeing persecution. From what? From who? Nobody's killing them. And Donald Trump sent a plane for them on your tax dollar. And y'all know this is just an Elon Musk thing. Help get these people out. They're having But it's just a dog whistle, and it is a slap in the face of all the immigrants that we have here. And these guys just jump the line because they're from South Africa and they're white. I said it straight. That's the truth. Let's listen to Victor.
Clearly, you're not going to acknowledge there's no genocide in South Africa. What about the genocide in the Congo? Will there be this expedited path available to the Congolese and to the Sudanese who are facing actual genocide?
Again, Victor, 8,666 individuals have been granted
You have
asylum.
a specific number on asylum. How many of those are from the Congo or from the Sudan?
I'm happy to come back next week and lay out all the single facts, but the fact that you have not addressed the fact that we have helped these individuals who are facing persecution, and you seem to want to whitewash the fact that South Afrikaners are facing persecution, and I can't understand why, and I think a lot of Americans can't understand why, and it's left to believe that it's because of the color of their skin, Victor.
So you suggest that I am the one here who is focused on color of skin when the president has let in Afrikaners specifically, and I'm asking how many of those who are actually facing genocide, who are from the Sudan and who are from Congo, who are being let in under some expedited path that the president has created for Afrikaners?
I don't know how many times I have to repeat this fact. 8,666 individuals have, if you will let me speak, have faced persecution.
You've repeated the number. You haven't answered the question.
I'm exactly answering the question. Regardless of color or creed, we will allow you into this country if you are facing persecution and you go through the proper vetting. You can be from the Congo. You can be from Rwanda. We are letting those in who are facing persecution, Victor.
I'll look for those numbers.
That was funny. And tell me this, why do all of the Trump administration women all sound and look like that? I've said that before. They're always blonde. They always have these quirky voices, and they're just over the top. All of them. It's kind of the way Fox News is, all those blondes. What is it? That's just weird to me. They all kind of look the same. I don't know what that is, but it's there. And her little voice is quite irritating. She works with the immigration, I guess. All right, so let's go to my next one here about the South African immigrants. This is, I think, Chris Murphy from MSNBC. This might be that one. Or no, this is going to be another one. Let's listen to this one.
I'm just really upset about something, and I want to delve into it real quick. Again, I know this isn't sports. I know some of you come here for sports. I respect that. But earlier today, a group of 50 white South Africans landed at Dulles International Airport as refugees. And they were welcomed into the United States under a humanitarian designation meant for those men and women fleeing war or persecution. And Trump has suspended this for all other groups everywhere in the world. And almost all of those other groups, or a huge majority, are people of color. And Donald Trump has allowed these 50 white South Africans into the United States because he says that there's a genocide in South Africa. And that is just actually not true. Trump said farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black, it makes no difference to me. And at the same time, you're watching people all over this country being round up, people almost exclusively who are of color, being rounded up by ICE, taken into facilities, exported. But white people are being brought in from South Africa under the false pretense of they're facing this life or death discrimination. It is so fucked up. Like, it is so fucked up. If you don't think these people are racist, please understand this. No brown people are allowed in this country. We are not taking any refugees who happen to be brown. But these 50 white people from South Africa can come in. These 50 white people with their families and their history of apartheid can come in. We need to help the white people of South Africa, and we are allowing them into America. Think how fucking deranged that is. I'm being serious. Even if you're a Republican, even if you're pro low taxes, think how fucking deranged that is, that there are people in the Trump administration believe that the optics and the politics of this, what we need to do are save the white South Africans. And if you're like, this is great, this is so awesome, blah, 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 like, something is wrong with you. Like, something is actually wrong with you. This is the most racist, sinister shit I've seen done in the open by a politician in years. There's been racist, sinister shit done by both parties through the years. This is just, look, we're racist. Look, we're going to let the white people in, but no brown people in. But the white people, come on in. We want to save you. That's what this is. And if you're not paying attention, just Google it. Google South Africa and Trump. Google South Africa and white and America right now. I'm not exaggerating what's going on. It is fucked up and absolutely crazy and disgusting and disturbing, but on brand with this monster and his minions.
Okay, that was a Caucasian man. I just want y'all to know that's not me. That was him. So we have people that feel a certain way. So, if they're going to say, this is what America mandated. No, America didn't mandate this. No. America wanted to clean up immigration. So what is that? What are you doing right there? You're saving selected people. So all these people that come here for persecution from their places, from cartels and whatever, y'all don't care. You're just sitting them back. So it just doesn't matter. We are a heartless country now. We are. So listen to the Latinos for Trump guy. He's upset and not understanding why Latinos should be upset about what's going on with South Africa. And let's see what he has to say. Here we go.
So this is for all of my Latinos for Trump, which I will never forgive you for putting this man back in office, especially because your roots, he was never going to pick you. Anyways, so remind me again how you guys were for a person that wanted to get all of the people that didn't belong here or came here the wrong way. Why are we trying to fly back white South Africans? Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring in some white South Africans. If you don't get the message now, like, you guys are probably the type of people that, like, your ex told you that they needed to focus on themselves and you believe them. Like, that's the type of people that I believe you are, because this man was never going to pick you. He was never for you. And the fact that you fell for the BS is beyond me. This was never about getting criminals out. This was about getting people like them back in and back in control. So, like, that whole rhetoric, it was a lie. I don't know if you've noticed, because you guys have been very quiet. I haven't seen a single Latino for Trump come out and, like, defend their stance, because you have no stance. They want us out. We are the target, okay? And you were complicit in getting this man back into power. But it's fine. Like, we'll have a whole therapy session about it. But, yeah, it's very clear what they're trying to do. And you know what? Like, you can still, like, make amends, but you have to start standing up. Like, you have to start speaking up. Just like you were so loud to defend this man, like, we need you now to step up and get united with us and back our community up and step up, because it's getting more radical out here. And they're only doing it step by step. They were never going to come out like in, like, Star Wars Death Troopers style. No, they were going to do it piece by piece, and it's getting worse. So we need all the help that we can get. And you guys need to make this right.
Yeah, to make it right. So the hypocrisy of it all. Yep. Latin Americans, why aren't you enraged? It's kind of a strange dynamic that goes on within the Latino community on things. It's like there's just this, they don't want to be associated with anybody illegal, so therefore they go the total opposite on any kind of issues, just because they don't want to be associated with illegal aliens. But you know what? Black people, we're not even illegal aliens, and we are standing up for them more than your own people are. Some of your own people are standing up for your own, which is weird. Because that's why I say it's a strange dynamic in the Latino community about class and color and all kinds of other things, which is kind of messed up. It's just messed up. Okay, so moving on to the next story. Trump charges Congresswoman for assault. These are Congress people that are on oversight who went to a facility in New Jersey. They're trying to find out what's going on with the undocumented workers, and they wanted to go into an ICE facility, and they were trying to push their way in because they have the right to. And this one Congresswoman looks as though they got into a little push-shovey thing, but it wasn't anything major. And now he wants to charge her. Now I want y'all to think about that. A little pushy-shovey, And they said, and this is one of the words that I heard. We will not. Let me read this to you. Let me read it to you. I'm just going on and on. I just got to read this to you. Okay, so Trump charges black congressman while pardoning white insurrectors. This is from Keith Boykin. Representative LaMonica McElver from Democratic from New Jersey was charged for assault on the same day Trump awarded $5 million to an insurrectionist, Ashley Babbitt. Y'all remember that lady that got shot. The Trump administration is charging Representative LaMonica, a member of Congress, for an assault that never happened when she visited an ICE facility in Newark, New Jersey. This is an outrage. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, the same crooked lawyer who represented Donald Trump when he was convicted for 34 felonies, had the nerve to claim that assaults on federal law enforcement will not be tolerated. That's the phrase I wanted to get to. Will not be tolerated. Oh, yeah? Well, it seems like you pardoned a whole bunch of people that came in on the Capitol Police and they got pardoned. But you want to go and put some charges on a congressman for going and doing her job where she has the right to enter. And you want to put, this is crazy, Donald Trump. This is crazy. Very crazy and stupid. And you don't really care, do you? No, you don't. Because that whole insurrection thing, this is when I need to play the insurrection video a little bit more. That whole insurrection thing, dude, those were police officers. And some of them were very, very guilty, and you pardon all of them. Do you remember that, Dunny boy? He doesn't care. He really doesn't care, but that is a travesty, guys. Y'all got to know what's going on. You got to know what's going on. Jeez. All right, let's move on to this bill that the Trump administration is trying to get so they can pay they can fix this bill so they can remove the taxes on the rich. That's the whole goal. So in order to do that, he has to do some things. So let's listen to Pete Buttigieg.
While the president was with congressional Republicans today, they are working on a major piece of legislation. And here's 3 of the things that it would do. 1, add trillions of dollars to the national debt. 2, cut taxes for the wealthy. And 3, kick millions of Americans off of Medicaid. So this is a good time to reach out to your member of Congress and ask them if they're going to keep the promises that they made earlier this year not to cut Medicaid. This bill is bad policy no matter which part of the political spectrum you come from. Most conservatives I know hate the idea of adding trillions of dollars to the national debt. Most liberals I know are especially troubled by the idea of more tax cuts for the wealthy. And most Americans I know understand that kicking millions of people in this country off their health care is just wrong. Our country can do so much better. And it starts by demanding that this Congress put together a budget that actually reflects the values of the American people.
Yep, that's the bill. But guys, when they said Medicare cuts, I had to dive deep into and see exactly what does that mean. Because that's how these bills are sometimes fashioned, so that it's buried in there and you don't know exactly what that means. But I was able to find some information here on what exactly that means. So, the proposed Medicare cuts in the Trump administration. Low-income families, Medicare provides essential health care coverage for millions of low-income Americans. The proposed work requirements for able-bodied adults under 65 could result in millions losing coverage if they fail to meet the criteria, whatever that is. Seniors and individuals with disabilities, Medicaid helps cover nursing homes and things of that nature. This is what's so bad about this, guys, because it covers Medicaid. And if you are a caregiver, that Medicaid care part that you have that helps with the caregiving, so you can put them in nursing homes and Medicare kicks in. This is what's going to be hard. While Medicare itself is not seeing direct benefit reductions, Medicaid, the health insurance program for low income people, is. So the children and pregnant women. While some exemptions exist, stricter eligibility checks and funding reductions could impact access to prenatal care. Rural communities, many rural hospitals rely on Medicaid funding to stay operational. They're getting rid of that. Reduction federal support. Undocumented immigrants. The bill proposes barring Medicaid funding for undocumented individuals, which could lead to fewer Medicare options for immigrant communities. All right, so basically, when someone comes into this country and they're undocumented and the lady has they get pregnant or they have to go to the hospital, most of them are able to apply for Medicaid, which is for undocumented, which is for people that have low income people that don't have any medicine. So what are we supposed to do, Donald Trump? Just let them just die? You know, we even help our people. We give the basic people who have no insurance Medicaid, at least if they have no means, if they can qualify for it. So I'm really afraid about these Medicare and Medicaid cuts, because this is going to really get into the gulps of a lot of people that you will know. 8 million people, they're saying that's a lot of people. And from what I'm hearing, it's going to drastically affect a lot of red states where a lot of these poverty levels are. Red states. Did you hear that, Donald Trump? Red states are going to be affected. But he doesn't care, guys, because all he cares about is himself. He doesn't care about you. That's why this is so easy for him to do. Oh well. Well, let's see. Let's talk about this plane. The good old plane. This is the plane that Trump was gifted. And Trump is such a patsy. They use him. All they got to do is stroke his ego, and he's in. Listen to this about the plane. This is new information. Here we go.
Well, today, what we are now learning is that the $400 million private jet that the government of Qatar gifted to Donald Trump is the Michael Jordan's house of private planes. It was initially designed back in 2012 for the former Qatari prime minister, but it sounds like the expensive jet was just more trouble than it's worth. According to a new report in Forbes, quote, while many have speculated the Qataris have offered Trump the luxurious plane to curry favor with the famously transactional president, there may be a simpler rationale. They just don't want it anymore. The Royals have failed to sell the plane, which was put on the market in 2020. Giving it away could save Qatar's rulers a big chunk of change on maintenance and storage costs. Making Trump happy would be an added bonus. See, it turns out no one wanted to buy Qatar's hand-me-downs, with Forbes noting the massive, highly customized planes with idiosyncratic interior decorating are not easy to sell. One aerodynamics expert telling the outlet, quote, the market is incredibly illiquid for a jet like this. In fact, the planes are so difficult to get rid of that one aviation blog actually called it way back in 2020. All right, when the Qataris first put this jet up for sale, quote, I can't imagine Qatar will find a buyer for this plane, so one has to wonder who this 747-8 will be gifted to. Well, looks like Qatar finally found a sucker to pawn it off to.
Boo, y'all. Donald Trump. Stroke him. He's got this plane, and he says it's a gift, and it's going to go into the Trump library. Whatever, Donald Trump. The Constitution says you can't accept a gift that big. If it was to you, he says, it's not to me, it's the Department of Defense. Of course it is. It was to you, Donald Trump. How many times have I said his name in this particular podcast? I'm going to have to get by like Whoopi and just say, you know who. That's a good one. All right, so I'm going to end this podcast with my girl Jasmine Crockett, who is my official congresswoman. I am in her District 30 here in Dallas, and we are so proud of her. But she continues to be the shining star of the Democratic Party, and not because anything spectacular. It's because she knows her stuff, and she's good, and she's working for her district, which is me and the people around it. That's what she does. Very proud of her. So let's listen to my girl, Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman from Texas.
I am tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent,
You are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel a way and why you can't make me doubt who I am is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder. This is why they don't want us to have education. This is why they are trying to literally say we won't fund the HBCUs, because they know that if they've already gone after affirmative action and they're saying, you know what, don't allow them to come into, say, these PWIs, as we call them, don't allow them to come into these institutions. We know why they created the HBCUs in the first place. It was because they wouldn't allow us into the white institutions. And so now they're not allowing us in. And now they're saying, you know what, we're also going to defund the HBCUs. You know why? Because they don't want any more Kamala Harrises. They don't want any more Jasmine Crockett.
I love you, Jasmine. And she tells it like it tis. She does. And she's a fighter for the Democratic Party. I know that she's going to probably run for something, but Texas ain't ready yet. Texas ain't going to run a black female. No. That's going to be a tough ride for Jasmine, but I think she can find her voice and find some support across the aisle where she can get into her next level of her political career. But she really likes practicing law, so I don't know if she'll let this passion go for a minute or if she will, let it go or after, if she decides to retire, something like that. Right. Okay. So that is it for today, episode 37, guys. And Joe Biden, sending all my love to you for healing, Lord God. Yes. And Joe, just get well. And we are praying for you, and we know you can beat this thing. 82 is just a number. It's just a number. So everyone have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. Bye now.